is March 13th, 2026. I believe this is the 6th-year anniversary, and it's a Friday because I remember, I believe, the day things shut down on COVID, across the United States at least, and when it went from being niche to close your office to some people were closing their office. I believe March 13th was one of the last days, March 10th or 13th in 2020, where a majority of American corporations, I believe schools too, I'm not completely sure, but probably schools, majority of in-person locations, universities, grade schools, offices shut down throughout the United States and most of the world 6 years ago today. Wow, how the years have passed by, and what an event that was 6 years ago. It's interesting with the hyper networks that we have. I speak about hyper networks a lot. The internet, social media, those are hyper networks. And the virality of that, how quickly the information went out. I don't know how quickly it went out for the Spanish influenza, which was, I believe, the last major virus or flu, I believe it's virus like issue, hit the human population, and how quickly that information spread across the globe. I'm not going to research it now, but maybe later I'll ask Gemini or someone in chat could give it to me. So, digital twin, I've spoken about that a few times. Digital twin is enabled through a few mechanisms. One is computer vision, which is more or less, what it says. It's an AI with computer vision, and there's multiple ways. It's a very broad domain. It's kind of, my base is electrical engineering, so it's similar to electrical engineering, where you say you're an electrical engineer. Well, what type? There's many different types of electrical engineering, and the spectrum of electrical engineering and what it means could increase significantly. I mean, the physics in and of itself is standard, but the education, how it's taught across disciplines and what types of disciplines, and the what's the word I'm looking for? Amount of people in the space will, I hope, increase. It should increase. It's not as difficult, maybe hardcore electrical engineering, but if you want to get involved in the electrical space, it is difficult. I don't want to say it's not. It's certainly hardcore, um, applied, you know, I'm not sure the word, but um, trade. Maybe trade is probably the best word. There's a lot of memes across social media about electricians, which I find interesting and funny, how they're kind of treated much better than some other trades, or they make more money. I don't know. I'm not going to go through the meme. I'm just going to start going through some stuff. So Qnity came out with our public space. So if you have a link tree, you can use Qnity at this moment, and it's still free for the next 3 months. But If you use Linktree, come use Qnity. I'm not sure how robust and if Linktree is or what its features are, but we just have this public profile feature, which is very interesting. And in the moment, Qnity is free. It's in the beta, and I hope by the beginning of summer it will be moved to a paid service with CRM, newsletters, this public domain feature, and video clipping, which I think, you know, for there's a lot of important parts of that which are vital to consider. They're very vital to consider. So lots of things happening in HOA. Lots and lots and lots. I need to find a mechanism to just come out with written written content as well as video content. But for the moment, written content is so important. It's so important, and getting more written content out just for AI and AI's sake. It's gravely important. There's a lot of stuff going on in condos and HOA. It's such a broad field. It's pretty incredible. And then Qnity is a nice backdrop to that in the sense of it's a completely consumer grade app, whereas Zayuk is completely enterprise. There's very few HOAs to a degree are consumer because the usual member is a consumer, but at the end of the day, even the property is an organization. So it's a B2B type of enterprise. Our community is completely B2C. Okay. Hmm. So I heard that the Mac Neo is coming out, and apparently PCs aren't ready for it. This is the smartest thing. I mean, this is really a really smart thing for Apple, I think, because this will get people who want to be on the Apple ecosystem across domains, meaning mobile as well as desktop. but for a price that's good, very affordable, $500. There is a lot of stuff going on in the HOA space, and it's a little overwhelming to come with. I need to ask someone something regarding their company. It might not be, it might just be their tool, but it was a news tool that continually got the latest news, and I thought it was really great. I thought that was a really great mechanism. Okay. Hialeah mayor creates task force to tackle malfeasance from HOA boards. Mayor Brian Calvo, City Hall Wednesday, 2,000, 26,055 condos within its border. HOA boards have misused member fees and not performed necessary maintenance work. Calvo presented images of condo buildings in Hialeah with construction work, left unfinished in a dilapidated parking garage with exposed rebar. Many of these buildings, the passage of time has definitely taken its toll on them. That's the issue we have today, is that these are additionally aging. Form a task force that will educate residents about their rights with regards to HOAs. Starting Monday, March 16th, the city will host an event where residents come in person and meet with personnel to issue complaints. Condo associations have come under heavy scrutiny in Florida over the last 5 years following the collapse of Champlain Towers in Surfside. Yes, and the astronomical fees that have come in the several years since then. Simone Reba said she was worried about the future of her Southern Delaware vacation home when she began seeking solutions to increasing risks posed by coastal storms and floods. Nine-member condo association board that manages her Mallard Lakes community filed a lawsuit last fall against her, seeking an injunction that would gag her from asking public officials for funding or other support for flood or repairs. Mallard Lake Community Association claims was speaking on behalf of board governed group at county meetings. And they say she has no right to act as a formal representative of the community or the board. The dispute highlights growing tensions in Delaware, low-lying coastal communities, as residents grapple with worsening flood risks tied to sea level rise and coastal erosion. That's very unfortunate. New state law designed to protect people from lawsuits that they claim are meant to silence public speech. That's, I mean, I won't put a comment on it. Expected to increase as climate change exacerbates, sea level rise along the East Coast. Lawsuit and the association's messaging to neighbors. Virginia resident and retired federal government employee, difficult to live the type of life she wanted. Association claims Reba's efforts eroded much of the groundwork it had previously made with elected officials. Association leaders particularly point to a website Reba created to house her research into flood risks and potential solutions for the community that sits just west of Fenwick Island. They claim misinformation from the website could potentially drive down property values. October lawsuit Condo Association also demanded Reba add additional disclaimers to her website noting that it is not endorsed by the association. Those don't exist. Mallard Lake's case also relies heavily on public comments Reba made during Sussex County Council meeting in July 2025. She identified herself as an individual condo owner and asked elected officials to consider setting aside $500,000 in funding for a watershed-wide engineering study or smaller feasibility study. Wow. No authority to speak on behalf of the association, or if the expenditure of any money requested on Mallard Lake's common areas would require ultimate approval from the association. Last year's amendments to the Uniform Public Expression Protection Act aimed to shield individuals from being sued for speaking publicly, particularly during public meetings or to elected officials. So the attorney is asking to court to dismiss based on that. Mallard Lakes was designed to welcome tides. The community is nestled in Delaware's southernmost coast with Assawoman Bay to the south, canals and Little Assawoman Bay to the north, and several smaller ponds scattered throughout the community. Flooding map tools includes 47 buildings with 477 condo units, mostly in a floodplain surrounded by natural and man-made waterways. Just north of Route 54, 7.25 inches by 2040. And this goes on for a long, long time. HOA fees are becoming more common for single-family homes. Rise of cost, something as simple as mowing the lawn is showing up in residents' monthly bills. Rising labor costs for landscapers and other maintenance workers are just one factor. Rising insurance premiums, with the median fee rising to $135 a month. In 2025, up from $125 the previous year and up from $108 in 2019. Keep a community running smoothly. Membership fees fund maintenance of common areas and shared amenities, including pools and clubhouses, insurance for these shared spaces, and long-term repairs. HOAs aren't always popular. Ancillary housing costs, along with property taxes and home insurance, that all add to the homeowner's monthly expenses. While median HOA fees have grown, tax bills and insurance premiums have risen simultaneously. It becomes a big deal. The majority of condos and townhomes have HOAs. Third of single-family homes now have HOAs. It's easier for the developer to create amenities within the neighborhood, which draws attention. So for many of them, if you're a developer and you need someone to help you with reserve studies to get the residents that are going to be purchasing your development, let us know. We can do these sophisticated protocols to give you the value in handing over the property and making sure the reserve study is fine-tuned to the property and not creating some sort of issue where the developer may have to have delays because certain engineers can't sign off on certain end of life details because they don't have eyes on the ground for the site. Surging fees attributed to a law passed. It's a huge deal now. I think it's not when the buildings are newer, it's not so big of a deal, but now there's so many, it's so prolific. Some articles are really unreadable. It seems as though the HB 657 bill to permit increase transparency, strengthen oversight, and provide new mechanisms to resolve disputes will likely not pass within the Senate. Would have implemented three major changes, would have addressed transparency issues by creating a state-funded court process. Second, it would have provided a process for dissolution of HOAs. Third, the measure would have addressed a lack of accountability that malfeasant HOA board members now enjoy by mandating that HOAs include Kaufman language in their governing documents that require organization bylaws to change in accordance with state law automatically. Ombudsman Spencer Hennings told lawmakers in 2023 that the current system works only when boards decide to act scrupulously. When they're corrupt, unit owners basically have no rights. And it's not just corrupt, it's when they don't function appropriately. The board could be completely justified in their beliefs. They might not be malfeasant at all. It's just they're not, unfortunately, good enough at being a board member. And it's not easy. I mean, I've already mentioned there's like little reward and a lot of risk. It doesn't make a lot of sense. If you have the option, what reward do you get from being a HOA board member other than the experience? Other than the experience, there's no financial benefit. There's huge liability. There's a lot of time. You might be disliked by your neighbors, which is, if you live on the property, very stressful. And it's, you could think, you could be trying to do everything right and still everything go wrong. It's not that easy. Give me one moment. Give me one moment. One moment. I'm really excited for Qnity, to be honest. As much as I love Zayuk, I also love Qnity. So this is really great. This is a story from W. Reg. HOA board members in their neighborhood clung to office for years, leaving residents in the dark and not responding to community concerns. No transparency and barely even any annual meeting. They were at wits' ends and ready for some help. Talk to lawyers and lawmakers. HOA disputes are some of the toughest things to solve. Difficult when neighbors get on different sides of a dispute. You park right across the street from that guy and you have beef with them every day. Stews inside of people, and they take that out on their attorneys a lot. Step up and run for HOA board. Be on that HOA, change the board from within and change policy from within. The HOA meeting turned into something they had never seen or never could have expected. Largest turnout they have ever seen. A meeting in the Stonecrest community, and one of the neighbors stood up and said thanks to Reginald and Trina because they got out and knocked on doors and basically continued to put the word out. You really have, I mean, it's not going to happen on its own. Hell yeah. Let's go. Southern Nevada businesses and HOAs face 2027 non-functional turf deadline. Businesses and HOAs face growing pressure as 2027 non-functional turf deadline nears. U.S. turf, rising approval wait times, seasonal demand, and available rebate dollars. Property owners, that means delays can begin well before any actual landscape starts. As the 2027 deadline gets closer, that bottleneck could intensify as more property owners move at once to comply. Water Authority is offering a strong financial incentive for qualifying properties to act now under the current WaterSmart Landscapes program. Eligible commercial, HOA, and multi-use can receive $5 per square foot for conversion work, but the process cannot begin without a required pre-conversion site visit and approval from the authority. That's great. If you're in Nevada, take advantage of that. That's a great thing. The issue is no longer just about landscape upgrades. For many commercial and community properties, it becomes a broader matter of compliance, water policy, budgeting, scheduling, and long-term planning. That is the truth. Long-term planning. If you need long-term planning support, reach out to Zayuk. We have the ability to come to your property, take a reality capture, integrate that with your reserve study, and connect that to your financial account so that you're able to have an overall view of your property. More homes listed for sale in Philadelphia came with HOA fees in 2025, and those dues grew from the previous year. 29% of homes in the Philly metro area last year had HOA dues, compared to 28% in 2024. The median monthly fee is now $215, up from $199. Throughout Pennsylvania last year, 26% of listings had HOA fees. More common in the West and South, where condos, townhouses, and newly built homes represent a larger share. In the North, it's almost non-existent. I need to check out Law by Mike just put out a video, and I'm gonna try and make it near exactly, to be honest with you, for a video. Maybe I'll do it all weekend. And as we mentioned, in Florida, it seems as though the HB 657 is not going to pass that bill that would have allowed HOAs to disband much easier. And in a couple days, I'm going to get these pieces up. That it's going to look good right there. And then maybe some other piece too, like my diploma specifically, or my certificates. We'll see what happens. Okay. Oh, I thought this was awesome. So, homeowners associations play a huge role in how Houston neighborhoods operate, for better or worse. In a city like Houston, where the housing market is already strained by rising prices and widening income gaps, many homebuyers face another built-in cost, the HOA, largely by design due to our zoning laws or lack thereof. Unlike cities with traditional, Houston's growth has heavily relied on deed-restricted and private governance structures to manage land use. Developers often use HOAs to enforce neighborhood rules, maintain amenities, and preserve a specific aesthetic, especially in master plan communities. Houston has become one of the most HOA-dense housing markets in the country. About 76.8% of homes currently for sale in the greater Houston area are governed by homeowner association. Wow. Found that roughly 51% of all homes across the Houston region fall under an HOA. That's really interesting to consider too. 76.8% of homes for sale in the greater Houston area are governed by HOAs, but only 51% of homes across the Houston region fall under an HOA, which is a very alarming statistic, telling you that people who are in HOAs are much more likely to leave. Understanding these costs are crucial, and that's what Zayuk does. They really give you a mechanism to be able to understand that cost. Houston remains more affordable than many coastal metros. Rising home prices and insurance costs have restrained household budgets. Housing supplies continue to lag, but HOAs have their share of controversy. 2023 Texas lawmakers passed legislation prohibiting homeowners associations from discriminating against renters who use federal housing assistance. Homeowners in Headlands Willow Walk subdivision said they learned about the activation of their HOA through a social media post. Community HOA Solutions, the company the Willow Walk developer recently hired to manage the neighborhood, said the association has always existed on paper. The announcement came without warning. We all found out by a Facebook post made by the Community Solutions that was so lived in the neighborhood for 1 year. Seems people were very shocked by how the mechanism came to light. Alabama state law follows buyer beware, placing the burden of research on the buyer. And this is a problem with a lot of HOA buyers is they They buy into the HOA system and it turns out to not be what they thought it was. And it becomes a huge issue, whether it's the structural, the asset hygiene, the financial mechanisms that what they're obligated to, how and in what way, and tie that in with governance structure, which in and of itself is complicated. All right. All right, guys, I'm out. Thank you.